All right, yeah, let's go, Estrada. Nothing like hearing that early in the morning, even before I've had my first cup of coffee. Welcome in. This is Section 1904. It is Tuesday. I'm Darren Smith. He's John Gennaro. Thank you for being with us. Got a packed week here. Today's show will be a little bit Padre-themed, Padre-centric, since we are taking you back to some of the sounds, that sound from San Francisco. Game number one goes the way of the Padres and Yu Darvish. But we do have a big week here on Section 1904, so thank you for being with us. Thank you for supporting us. I know we're trying some different stuff with regards to video, our Discord channel as well. So I'm not fully aware of what it is that we're doing. John is like this mad scientist behind the curtain here. He's the Wizard of Oz. He's pulling a bunch of levers. And I think that there's some video stuff happening some places, either on YouTube or Discord. I'm not really sure. But we are here and we'll chat about sports. Thank you for your support. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed to Section 1904. It's $5 a month, $5 a month. And not only do you get this kind of quality content, but you also get the front row seat delivered right there to your inbox. I don't know what other newsletters giving you Padre news, college football news, Taylor Swift news, and Spanish football news, Spanish soccer news. But that's what front row seat delivers. It's just part of the deal if you become a subscriber. Totally listener-supported endeavor here in America's finest city. John, how are you?
I'm doing great. I got a nice little pat on the back this morning from one of our subscribers who sent me a message that said, just a reminder that front row, they just called it front row, that front row is incredible. You're killing it, and I genuinely look forward to it every morning. So you're not the only one, Darren. There's other people out there.
It helps. You know, I get distracted a little bit early in the morning. By the way, I had some commentary yesterday on my new microphone position that it was better. I don't know if you have figured this out or if you would like to weigh in or if you need a little bit more. I don't feel like it's as good today as it was yesterday. I've been messing with the mic again. So I'm going to defer to you since you're on the receiving end of this immediately here. Is there anything different about this or no?
From yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
I've tinkered with it a little bit.
Maybe you were tinkering with like the settings of it or the position of it?
No, just the position.
I mean, I think it's fine. I still think you're in a very echoey. But the strange thing is we're both in a corner. Like we both have walls right in front of us. Yours echoes a lot more than mine, and I don't understand why. It's probably just because my mic is so much closer to my mouth than yours, but I don't know if that's true or not. But it sounds good enough, Darren. It sounds good enough.
Well, good enough isn't good enough, honestly. So, that's not really what we're going for here. And, having spent years in the iHeart studios where I thought the sound quality from those microphones was truly terrible, like I would like to avoid settling into a pattern where we just think that good enough is good enough.
That's true. I mean, look.
What was pointed out to me? Because, I've been invited to do this to be a participant in a different podcast, John.
Oh, no.
It's called Behind the Flow. This is San Diego Football Club specific.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we're recording another episode today. And what I have to do is I literally have to pick up this entire workstation and I have to relocate it to a different part of the house because the people who run the technical side of the Behind the Flow podcast said that this echo is just too much for them. And they blamed it on these Venetian blinds right next to me here. They think that somehow the sound is reverberating off the blinds. So I have to pick up this microphone, pick up this laptop, go into my wife's office, close the curtains. There's a carpet in there, close all of the blinds, keep the lights off just so I can eliminate some of the echo. I don't know if it's the blinds. I don't know if it's the stairs. John has recommended that I buy some of that soundproofing, some of that ugly looking soundproofing.
Acoustic foam paneling. Yeah, you do need some.
Might get divorced if I start putting this around the house. I don't know if there's a way to Velcro it and rip it down and put it on every single day, but I am striving. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe someday this podcast will reach a limit where we can just go and get an office place.
Someday.
Go somewhere else and just do with the acoustics what we want to do with them. But I don't know. It's messing with me just a little bit here as we're underway. So that was the sound that many of you pointed out on the Discord channel from last night's game in Oracle Park. Yeah. Says Dustin here, since we are streaming live, I had the muted TV. She would not stop. She ruined the broadcast. I did stop. And I said, I'm going to watch a couple of episodes of The Studio instead. So I actually left this game alone and watched a couple of more episodes of The Studio. So I could definitely talk about Ice Cube playing Kool-Aid Man and Sal Saperstein, which are two hilarious
I want to thank Sal Saperstein.
Oh my God. What a couple of episodes. I mean, what a show this has turned into, the studio. We have a guest tomorrow. His name is Adnan Virk, who works for Major League Baseball's network. He's a baseball guy. He also has a book coming out called Cinephile. He's a big movie and television guy. And I asked Adnan if he has seen the studio, and he has. So I figured that we can spend some time talking about the production quality of Seth Rogen's latest venture. But I actually did. I took about an hour away from this game because the sound of it. And the thing about MLB.TV, the Padres television streaming service, is you can go to radio. And I guess in hindsight, I should have thought about that, because I don't know that radio would have picked this screeching woman up as much as the television broadcast did. But I did tune out. It was a good win. San Francisco, I think, is sort of raising the white flag. I have a lot of friends, John, in Bay Area media, and I remember this shift distinctly when the Chargers were in town and everybody realizes that the baseball product is not going anywhere.
49ers
and you
season.
could just feel that titanic shift of, hey, so do the Niners have a depth chart?
When's the preseason start?
Well, yeah, what about Brock Purdy? You
Yeah.
know, do you think Christian McCaffrey will stay healthy here? And you could feel that shift in the San Francisco media, in the Bay Area media, that it is like, all right, Giants, we gave you a few months of our lives. It's over. And now this team is under 500. So we're more interested in Nicky Bosa than we are in Rafael Devers. So you can feel that shift from our friends. I thought about, well, maybe we put somebody on to talk about Sleepy Bob. And I was like, no, they're not interested anymore in the Giants. Nobody up there is interested in the Giants. All they're interested in is what's going on with the 49ers. So that's a wrap on the San Francisco Giants for 2025. And good for the Padres. You know, keep your foot on their necks and choke them out. Did it last night. Really, I mean, Darvish continues to amaze. Just the way he's such a smart pitcher. He's just, he's so... I'm trying to use not these same words. Like he's just so crafty, and he's got so much guile and arm angles. The man just knows how to pitch. That's the thing you can say about Darvish more than anything else. Knows how to pitch, and Padres got enough offensively, and now you move on to game number 2. So good on them.
Yeah, I want to unload some stuff on this game first, just so we don't get too far away from this. I'll pop it up on the video for those who are watching. Greg reached out, said, Darren, if you're facing directly into a wall, the echo will be worse. Facing into a corner may be better. That might be true, because I do face into the corner. Maybe you need to face into the corner and your echo will go away. Who knows? Maybe the corner is ruined by the blinds. Let's get back to baseball. I said yesterday that these next 13 games were all going to feel like playoff games, unless the Giants just let go of the rope. You're essentially saying the Giants, you feel like, have let go of the rope. At least their fans have let go of the rope. It did feel weird after that Freddie Fermin home run, and the Padres took a pretty commanding lead, and Logan Webb was on the mound, having thrown like 97 pitches, and he looked really tired, and Bob just left him in. And I saw someone in the Discord, they were like, oh, there's Sleepy Bob again. Like not realizing he's got to go get his pitcher.
Yeah, just thinking about a round at Augusta.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I want to point out, I loved watching Yu Darvish. I thought he was absolutely brilliant last night. He looked like he's kind of all the way back to the Yu Darvish, maybe not of old, but all the way back to like a mid to top of the rotation level pitcher. Looked really good against a bad team in a ballpark that really suppresses offense. Did you see, or were you watching the studio? Did you see when he did his like Nestor Cortez impersonation? Because it was my favorite moment of the entire game.
I did not.
So it was very funny, because I was paying attention to Mud and Don. As the game went on, they were getting more and more annoyed with this woman who we just played her yelling during the game. They were trying to be nice, but they were getting annoyed by it. But I was just paying attention to everything they were saying, because they were like sneaking in comments about her. And at one point, Yu Darvish goes and he's always had that thing where he gets into his motion, he gets on one leg for a second, and then he comes forward. There's like a slight pause, right? He got on that one leg and just paused and just sat there for like 2 full seconds before he fired in. And both Mud and Don were like, whoa, what was that? And they were like, oh, maybe that's a little bit of that Nestor Cortez, Johnny Cueto, you're trying to throw off the batter's rhythm, something like that. And I saw it, I was like, that was so cool. Look at what he did. And then the very next pitch, he does the exact same thing, except he's not quite on the one leg as long. It's like a second and a half instead of two. And he gave up a home run, I think. And I was like, well, damn, that one didn't work anymore. He might not do that. But I love the fact that Yu Darvish, a pro's pro, a crafty veteran, just in the middle of a game where he's essentially dominating, just goes like, let me try this. I saw Nestor Cortez doing this. It can't be that hard. And like anytime you read a story that a Padres, columnist or whatever writes about Yu Darvish and the Padres pitchers, it's always this. It's always like Yu Darvish saw someone throw a weird pitch because the guy's like a new teammate or whatever, and Darvish in his next start is like, I can throw that pitch. And he's just like trying stuff in the middle of a game, a very important game. He's just trying stuff. And that's maybe my favorite part about him is that he's just like, as much as he's a pro's pro, he's not very predictable. And then there was the article this morning that I forget who, maybe it was AC wrote it, about how Freddie Fermin was catching Darvish for the first time, and even Darvish was like, "Yeah, catching me is not easy.
Right,
I have a lot of pitches." But he did
that's
really
why
well.
Victor Caratini was a Padre a couple of years ago, because somebody had to know what was going on behind the plate there. That's what I love about watching this guy pitch is I just appreciate every one of these starts. I mean, I was on Marty's YouTube show yesterday. And she said, well, what do you think? Do you think Darvish has another year? And I was like, Marty, I'm just glad he's pitching tonight. Like seriously, like I am so start by start with you, Darvish, that like I will say, like of all the games, like there are probably going to be really important games that are being played here. Maybe there are games that are more important that Darvish isn't pitching right? Does that make sense? Last night was an important game because it was the first game of this 13-game stretch. You're facing a division rival. You're trying to bury them. The next start presumably will be against the Dodgers, so that will feel like it's a little bit more important. But, there might be games down the stretch where the stakes are high, but maybe they're not as high as one of these swing kind of games where you're facing direct competition for a playoff spot or a division title. And I still think like this is appointment television watching Yu Darvish for me because, I do not know how much longer there's going to be with Darvish. He is capable literally of anything. And at any time, I don't think he's the kind of player who's ever just going to hang around for the sake of hanging around. I just don't think that that's the way the person's wired. Not that I've ever even met the man, but knowing him a little bit or knowing about him a little bit from the people that are closest to it, I just do. I find myself going, and I realize I'm contradicting myself because I spent an hour watching the studio last night, but, still, I do find myself like really, really drawn into some of the Darvish starts, so I'm with you. I love the fact that he just is making things up. You're like, does he even tell Freddie Fermin that he's doing that? Or is Freddie just like, what's going on out there? What's he doing?
I think
what's that all about? Is he okay? Did he short circuit?
And we've this has been an ongoing theme, both on the air and off the air for us the last few months. I think it was a Tim Flannery quote that you threw at me at one point. Are you an artist or an actor? The world is all artists and actors. And what I'm talking about, where I'm like, Darvish in the middle of a dominant start is just like, let me try something. That's an artist. That's someone who's just like, getting a little bored of the current situation, wants to see if he can add another weapon to his belt to pull out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again, even though it didn't work out so well last night. Just an absolutely brilliant pitcher to watch. It looks like right now, assuming Nestor Cortez pitches tonight and Nick Pivetta pitches tomorrow, looks like we're going to have Michael King in his second start back after, 2 months off? Maybe more, opening up the series at Dodger Stadium. Dylan Cease pitching Game 2 at Dodger Stadium, and Yu Darvish, who has a history there, pitching Game 3 at Dodger Stadium. I hope for the best. That sounds scary, but I'm kind of up for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I feel like he was toying with the Giants last night, and they were talking a lot, I think, on the broadcast about his arm slot, that he dropped his arm slot, and so, these are things that I don't ever feel really qualified to talk about. I understand the concept of dropping I'm sorry?
I said I think it made his slider better. There was a lot of guys who were swinging
last night.
There was a lot of guys swinging at that slider when it would end up like 4 feet outside, outside the strike zone. I was just like, whoa, what were they seeing? I think the arm slot is affecting how much it's moving.
Yeah, I don't want to read too much into the internal numbers about how many pitches he threw of this kind, of that kind, what the velocity was, et cetera. I mean, I think that there are some things you look at and there's a lot to like about the performance from the box score. There's no doubt about that. And there's some other stuff where you're like, that guy just knows how to pitch, man. Like he just knows how to pitch.
Yep.
And he's somebody who's not going to get spooked by the fact that even if the velocity's down a little bit, then he's not going to get spooked by that. He's just going to figure out a way to make it work for him. And that is the artistry to go back to what you were just saying there. That is the artistry of Yu Darvish when you watch him pitch, which is why, like I said, it's appointment television. When this guy's out there and he's standing out there on the mound, I'd love to watch the guy pitch forever, man. I really would. I'm a big fan. I'm a really, really, really big fan of the guy. I was even trying to think today, and it's one of those silly sort of mental exercises where you start thinking, Yu Darvish is my favorite Padre pitcher since. And I was like, I don't know.
Peavy?
I don't even know. I started down that road and I kind of gave up because I was like, there's no way it's Peavy. Peavy hasn't pitched here since
20 years ago,
2009, 8,
15 years ago. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. But that's a name that did pop into my mind, but there has to have been somebody between now and then. So anyhow, I love watching Musgrove, don't get me wrong. Like I really like watching Musgrove pitch. He's another guy that left it all out there last year. So, same for Darvish. I hope we get to watch this for the foreseeable future. Anyhow, Padres are I just was laughing, especially when I used to host these pregame shows and you could just feel the entire local media shift into football mode. They'd be talking about the backup long snapper and you're like, no, there's a game tonight, everybody. There's a game. Nobody cares. And it feels like all the wind came out of the sails last night, but we'll see. Game 2 tonight. And then just handle that business. That place, it felt like the air just came out of that place sometime in the middle of the game. Like they were just like, okay, it's enough. We've had enough.
It felt empty, felt quiet, felt cold. I don't know how cold it was. Felt cold, like through the TV. So,
well, the coldest winter ever spent was the summer in San Francisco. Who said that, John?
Mark Twain.
Correct.
That's one of my favorite Mark Twain quotes.
And it is accurate. Flannery used to say he would wear not only a wetsuit under his uniform, but he would put some of that surfer gel under his wetsuit.
No way.
Yeah, that's
like
how cold.
While playing baseball or while coaching?
While coaching third.
I get it. You're not moving around that much, but Jesus.
Yeah, it was, and they would use it to their advantage. They would try to use it because they would look across and see everybody wearing parkas in the middle of July and be like, oh, okay, those guys, they don't want to be here, do they?
Oh, so you want to look like you can handle it, but you're actually bundled up. Quick stat question for you, real quick, because I've been kind of obsessed with this for a little while, and my wife loves to bring this up because she is or was a Texas Rangers fan back when Yu Darvish was pitching for the Rangers, and the narrative was always, for whatever reason, that Yu Darvish never got any run support. And it became this thing where it was almost like, does the lineup expect him to be great? So they don't feel like they need to try as hard, whatever. But he never got any run support. So I've been keeping an eye because I found out where on Baseball Reference you can look this up. I've been keeping an eye on which pitchers get how much run support. So, Darren, of these 3 pitchers, Nick Pivetta, Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish, which one do you think this season is getting the most run support?
Nick Pivetta, Yu Darvish. Who was the third?
Dylan Cease.
I'm going to say it's Nick Pivetta.
Actually, it's Yu Darvish, who gets an average of 5.1 runs of run support per game this year. Dylan Cease, not that far behind him, 4.4 runs per game for Dylan Cease. Nick Pivetta, 3.9, under 4. I think of the starting rotation, he might have the lowest run support of any pitcher. Who knows why? Doesn't really matter. But does look like Yu Darvish finally getting some run support in San Diego.
All right. Well, good to know. Yeah. There you go. John, digging deep into the statistics as well. We were joking about digging into statistics before the start of the show today. So
I got inspired.
All right. So are people watching this? They're watching this on Discord. We're streaming live on Discord right now. This is something that we're just testing out. We didn't really tell anybody we were doing it. We just want to see if anybody's going to notice.
Right. Yeah, we are. Look, we're getting, I'll have them pop up on the screen. We're getting messages. Okay. Here's one that says,
I got to figure out a way. Do I need to shower for these videos?
No one can smell you, Darren. You look the same. Here's another person saying you is my favorite pitcher by far. So here's what I did. We are technically streaming on YouTube. This is what is called an unlisted video, which means there's no way to find it. But if I send you a link, you can watch it. So what I did was I made this an unlisted video and I posted the link to our Discord, told everyone like, hey, if you want to watch, we're live, come on over. But it's not streaming anywhere else. just on YouTube, and the only people who have the link are the people in the Section 1904 Discord. Here's another person saying we're here, we're watching. So yeah, smaller group than yesterday, I think, but still one that's firing up the live chat here.
All right. Well, it is early, and again, we're sort of just testing things.
Yep. Seeing how they work.
Just to see what it is that sticks. So John sends out the front row seat every day. Again, this is a benefit of membership to Section 1904. One of the benefits, just like this video stream, which we're surprising everybody with.
Right.
And he sends it out usually about 7:15, somewhere like that. And of course, every day, like without fail, somebody posts a relevant story right after.
Almost every day. Almost every day.
Yesterday, it was Dylan from Letters to AJ who wrote this really, really lengthy piece analyzing each and every game of the Red Sox series. That actually appears in today's front row seat. So tomorrow, about 24 hours late, I'm sure will be a Dennis Lin piece. Red Sox iPad suggested Robert Suarez was tipping pitches. The Padres were already on it. Really a good look behind the curtain, I think, from Dennis, who talked to Ruben Niebla, who talked to Robert Suarez, who talked to Mike Schilt about this image that was seen over the weekend on Sunday from the Red Sox dugout, where there was an iPad that had a split screen. And on one side of the split screen was Robert Suarez in the set position for a fastball. And then on the other side of the screen was Robert Suarez in the set position with the changeup. It's an easy thing to do when you throw two pitches, right? I mean, it's pretty much, that's the way. You don't have to cut the screen into thirds. You could never do this with Darvish because he's got 1,000 pictures.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious. Just all these tiny little pictures of Darvish.
So Suarez comes into the game, and the camera from the Padres television booth catches one of the Red Sox people on the top step of the dugout, and he's got this iPad in his hands, and you can clearly see as somebody took a still shot, passed it all around, that this is what the Red Sox were looking at. I thought it was a really, really good piece, just from Dennis. And I know that Dylan touched on this as well. About, Ruben Niebla was pretty funny about it because somebody asked him afterwards. Dennis asked him afterwards. He's like, hey, did you see what was going on? He's like, yeah, I have like 37 DMs about this, direct messages about this. But we're also on this about the continued cat and mouse game, especially even in the technological age, whether it's still going on in Major League Baseball. This isn't just some guy, some code breaker sitting there trying to figure out, well, what's the indicator? Is it the brim of his hat? Is it the belt? Is it this? Is it that? What is the indicator? That used to be the thing back in the day. You used to find the indicator, right? The coaches would do all these silly signs. But whatever the indicator was, would he touch his nose? Would he touch his brim? Would he touch his belt? Would he touch this? And, would he touch his crotch? And what was it? And once you figure that out, you had a better sense of what the signs are going to be. And, now it's just like, hey, we have iPads in the dugout. And you said maybe I pay more attention to the story because obviously AJ Hinch is a friend of mine and I know what was going on there a little bit with the Houston Astros, and I paid closer attention to that story than just the surface level of, okay, Astros bad, banging trash cans, cheaters, suspended, whatever. There was a whole thing going on in the sport at the time, and I don't know that any club was necessarily not involved, not to the extent that the Astros were, obviously. But you had to make an example out of somebody, and it was the Astros. So I've been paying a lot of attention to the technological stuff, the technology and how it's being used and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So this didn't come as a big surprise to me that iPads were allowed, even with still images inside of the dugout. But you seem to think it was for a lot of people.
When this flashed on the screen during that game, I immediately went to our Padres section of our Discord, and I was like, do the Red Sox know that Suarez is tipping pitches? What was that? And then a few seconds later, someone had the screen grab from the TV broadcast, and they posted it, and everyone's like, what the hell? They're using technology to cheat and blah, blah, blah. And then, anyone who had any sort of background in this thing was like, it's not cheating. It's okay for them to look at pictures from a few games ago and be like, here's his setup for fastball. Here's his setup for changeup. That's not cheating. Even the players on second base relaying signs to the hitter, that's not cheating. No part of this is cheating. But I could see how what's interesting is I read the Dennis Lin article and I got to the part, this is the part that I didn't know. I got to the part where he was talking about they have an AI software.
Yes, that's exactly the paragraph that I have highlighted here. Go ahead.
That is analyzing in real time what the players are doing and if there's any repeated motion that's tied to a repeated event and therefore would be, and they like get alerted like, hey, this guy, to use your lingo, like this is this guy's indicator when he's going to throw fastball or changeup or whatever. Those 2 pictures of Robert Suarez was probably spit out by this AI program going, here are the differences in his setup between fastball and changeup. And I was thinking about all the people who are like, well, you can't get rid of the umpire. You can't make this game, fully technological. There has to be the human element. No. If we are using artificial intelligence to figure out if a pitcher is tipping pitches, and that artificial intelligence is relaying that information to the offensive team so that they can take advantage of it, we're already, we've crossed the Rubicon, Darren. We are already players that are being given information about the game that they are playing by robots and computers. And at that point, it's like it made me start thinking about robot umps more than anything else.
Here's the passage from Dennis Lin. Again, this story was just posted this morning, so you may not have had a chance to read it yet if you're listening live. Entering Monday, San Diego's pitching staff had the major's 4th lowest earned run average, lowest relief ERA. Those numbers might be even more impressive when considering that Kinatrax, 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 a markerless motion capturing technology, enables major league teams to detect potential tells in real time before relaying them to their dugouts and eventually their hitters. What?
Right.
Did I not live through an era where a manager and a general manager got fired for this? Where an organization got punished severe. I mean, maybe they didn't get punished as severely as people had hoped for, but you know where I'm going with this.
Dragged through the mud. They got dragged through the mud.
Sure. And again, listen, they broke the rules. They got caught. Nobody's throwing a pity party for them other than to say, I don't think they were alone. But I think that is a markerless motion capturing technology that enables major league teams to detect potential tells in real time before relaying them to their dugouts and eventually their hitters. Wait a second.
Yeah.
What's going on? Have we just decided, it's not a big deal, I guess. I guess it's not a big deal. Nothing we can do about it. We have artificial intelligence now, and this is just going to be the way that things are. Like Mike Schultz said, we're in a society where nobody can hide. I mean, just take that out of context.
Yeah, right.
I mean, just the technologies, everything that's out there, it's being used. It's there. These guys are not machines, but machines are evaluating and overlaying and using AI in all the different things that take place. And it's something that clearly we monitor. We have internal awareness of it. We're looking at our side and the opponent's side. And then he says, I think it's overblown. Of course, it's overblown because, they want to get the credit. You can look, you can slow it down. You can take a picture of it. Go in front of 40,000 people in real time. There's an athlete that's moving to see how successful you are. I don't think there's people and there's teams and there's players that are good at it. I think there's even, if it's slightly there, it's hard to pick up in live competition. Well, I don't know. I mean, people still do it. I mean, like the Astro system wasn't perfect either. There's a lot of examples of times where, in fact, the manager thought maybe we're relying too much on this and it's not really working because we're relaying the wrong signs.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to smash this television with a baseball bat. And the organizational response to that was, here's a bill for $800. Interesting how that happened. Not as reported upon as some of the other details of the Astros scandal, but when the manager, interesting message sent, that when you did try to throw a baseball through a television screen because it wasn't working properly, that the punishment was, here's a bill, you're going to pay for that equipment. But now you have all of this stuff, and it appears to be very much above board. I mean, this is really revelatory. Like this is revealing stuff from Dennis for me.
Yeah.
I did not know that baseball was still doing this kind of thing.
No.
Or that baseball, not still, but that baseball was just using a different version of this kind of technology.
I mean, that's basically, it's taking the human element out, right? Like we've always been okay with like, okay, you can steal a sign from second base. That's just, that's the human element, and you try and find a way to relay it to the batter. Sure. A guy spots a tell for a pitcher, right? He's tipping this pitch. He's doing this every time he's getting ready to throw fastball, or the catcher's doing this every time he's getting ready to throw fastball. He spreads that around to all of his teammates. We see them talking in the dugout. Look for this, look for this. But to have just a notification show up on the iPad of like, hey, Yu Darvish is tipping his pitches. Click here to find out how. Like, that feels like a game changer. And that feels like something that baseball fans, I'm not going to act like I'm hurt by this, but it feels like a thing that baseball fans should have been made aware of sooner than this, before it was implemented, of like, hey, we're going to test the whole, whatever the ABS system, the automatic ball strike system. They're like, we're going to test this in the minors. We're going to test this in spring training. Maybe we'll bring it next year. And instead we have artificial intelligence using basically motion capture on all of these players to be like, hey, this thing that no human could have ever spotted, we spotted it. It's a tell. Here's your advantage. Like that feels like that's a game changer. That's a game changer for baseball. And it's shocking to me. Like all the other stuff about Robert Suarez and the iPad, I didn't care about any of that. But I got to the part about this and I was like, that's a different sport than the one that I thought I was watching.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. Now, if you want to tell me that you're using AI to analyze that sort of stuff in the coach's room after the games and in the players' meetings and on the airplane and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Finally, we've come up with a good use for AI. As a matter of fact, I mentioned to you, I was just scrolling through Twitter before we started rolling today, and there was something that caught my eye about the NFL, John, if you can believe that. I guess the Carolina Panthers have figured out a way to take advantage of some of the new rules with regards to the kickoffs. I got to be honest, I don't even really know what the new kickoff rule is in the NFL. I paid that little attention to it, but now nobody just goes running down the field anymore, right? Like everybody just sort of stands there and like nobody can move until somebody decides to either catch the ball or till the ball hits the ground. Mm-hmm. And if you do nothing, you now get the ball at the 35-yard line. I did not know that.
Was that not true before? Was it still the 20?
I think it was the 30 last year.
So they've moved it up 5 yards.
To 35. So teams are like, well, what the fuck? Like that's giving up a lot of yardage. Is there a way for us not to do this? So the Carolina Panthers apparently this preseason have analyzed a lot of video. And I think this is probably like, I don't know. Do you think they make some coach sit in a dark room and look at this? NFL coaches are kind of wired that way anyway.
Yeah, they'd be happy to, right?
I would be more than happy to just turn this over to ChatGPT, and say like, go analyze every kickoff in the NFL. Tell me what you find. But they find now like if you hit some knuckleball down the middle so that you force the guy to pick the ball up around the 10 or 15 yard line, that you can pick up maybe 10 yards in field position. Like that's, I was like, oh, okay, that seems like a good use of AI.
Strategy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good strategic approach. Same thing I would say for this, I mean, Tim Flannery told me forever. I mean, going back to the Qualcomm days that they had cameras rolling in there. He's posted this on Facebook, so I'm not saying anything. I'm not telling any tales out of school here.
Right, but it wasn't like they had cameras that were being processed through artificial intelligence. And
right, well, the technology was there.
Right, but like the thing about artificial intelligence is it is literally artificial intelligence, which at times means it's significantly dumber than human intelligence, and at times means it can do things that humans cannot do.
Right.
Like when I worked at NFL Network, so like 2017, 2018, I was working on a podcast with Cynthia Freeland, who, if you ever watch NFL Network, there's a chance you'll see her. She's kind of their like advanced analytics person. And Cynthia, she's been public about this. She won't care that I say this. Cynthia has both been hired by Major League Baseball teams as a like basically consultant, but also certain NFL teams. And I remember asking her, like, these NFL teams, they're so proud, and they're not usually the type to be like, oh, let's bring in this woman with her computer to tell us what to do. They're usually more meat-headed than that. And I was like, so what are you doing that they can't do on their own? And she showed me she had a background in like computer programming and engineering. She had built an artificial intelligence program that would go through the all 22 like game film and would spit out stuff that just no human could ever get, which would be like, hey, when this wide receiver is lined up in this spot against a cornerback who is, of this height, he 87% of the time gets 2 yards of separation past the 15-yard line. And they would like factor this into their play calling. Like, oh, that guy's over there. We're going to call this play because Cynthia's program says that 87% of the time he's going to get 2+ yards of separation if we throw it deep to him over there. And I was like, this is all incredible. But what I told her at the time, I was like, I don't want this to turn into a thing where like the computers are calling the plays. And she's like, no, there's human elements. I'm just giving them information. And I guess the same is kind of true here, but like, yeah, something is getting lost for sure.
Yeah, and think of how easily some of this stuff can get manipulated as well. But it's really like, I mean, I give Dennis a ton of credit. I think this is really good reporting.
Yeah.
I know others have pointed this out, like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal to have an iPad in the dugout anymore. And I don't blame anybody for not being aware of that rule. That's fine. People have better things to do with their lives than update the MLB rule book.
You don't tune in to watch whether or not there's an iPad in the dugout.
Right. Yeah. And it looks odd, right? Because it's a relatively new concept. You're like, hey, what's going on there? Especially when you can see what the actual screen grab is. You're like, oh, that looks like cheating to me.
Yeah.
My radar's up. This is cheating, isn't it? And once upon a time, it might have been considered such. But, I thought that was like, whoa, there's a real-time program. And now keep in mind, and I mean this respectfully towards D. Lin, if Dennis is reporting about it, there's probably other stuff that nobody even knows exists, right? Like there's other things that are happening here in these clubs that nobody even knows it's happening, So like that we know about Kina tracks or whatever it's called. Is probably like, they might be already on to the next thing. Like if you're a club and you're not using this, you're like, what are we doing? What's the matter with us? Like I do remember that. That's one thing I will share. I do remember the summer of 2017. It was the year that the Astros and the Dodgers met in the World Series. That year, All-Star break, the Hinches came to San Diego for the All-Star break. We got together with them, and I think Dave and this was a matter of public record. They talked about it during the World Series. Dave and AJ had lunch during the All-Star break. And I remember like, oh, what's that like? Like you guys might meet in the World Series. It's like, yeah, we talked a little bit about like what the Dodgers were doing and what the Astros were doing. And I always remember he's like, yeah, like we're a little bit ahead of them on some things. I was like, okay. Like in hindsight now, I'm like, all right. But like it's like a race. It's not just a race for players and prospects, coaches, and all that stuff. But
technology.
Like it's like it is a technology. Yeah, it's a technology race in baseball as well.
I remember a few years ago. Remember I think it was the 2021 Giants. They won like 100-something games. They weren't even supposed to be like good that year, and they ended up being
the only
fantastic.
time the Dodgers haven't won the West in like a decade plus.
Right, and I remember. I think I was working at Yahoo, and Hannah Kaiser, who's been on this podcast before, she did this big long report about how the Giants were one of the first teams to implement this new technology into their batting cages, where the pitching machine would literally replicate how the ball would look and spin and everything based on the pitcher you were about to face. So you could go in there and you could just be like, Yu Darvish, and it would automatically learn how to throw Yu Darvish's pitches in a way that spun the exact same way at the exact same speed as Yu Darvish with the exact same movement. So it would be almost identical to hitting against Yu Darvish. And the Giants are one of the very first teams to get this. And that team was the one that saw the benefit from it. Their offense like greatly exceeded expectations. And I remember Hannah wrote this whole thing about how that was such a huge success that all these other MLB teams were running to the Giants going like, hey, how'd you get that? How do we get that? And they like went to the company like, you got to give it to us. You got to give it to us. And the company was like, look, we can only make, it takes a while. Like we can only make so many of these in a certain amount of time. And so teams were like trying to outbid each other to be like the next one to get one. And there's a whole thing. And like, I was like, it's an interesting article. And I understand like the business side of this, right? You're a good team. You sell more tickets, you make more money. But there was a part of me that was just like, is this baseball anymore? Like, or is it something completely else? And like, I just have never really backed off from that. And
or is it just a better mousetrap, right? I mean, that's really like I remember from that conversation. I remember, I won't go into all the detail, but I remember hearing about things with the Astros, and I was like, I'm around the Padres every day. Like, I never heard any of this. Like they were just, and it's things now that will seem very common, especially in 2025. But they were one of the first, I think, to use pitch tracks on their bullpen days, right? On their throw days between starts. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, oh yeah, we have, who's that dude with the beard? Remember the long guy?
Brian Wilson?
No.
No, that's Giants.
Yeah. Anyway, lefty guy, Dallas. I don't know what his name was, but anyhow,
Dallas Braden?
Like, no, that was an A, but it doesn't matter. But, they would do this for all their pitchers where they would have them on their throw days and they would be like, well, we just wanted to see what a spin was. We wanted to see what the spin rate was. This would help us make a decision on what it's going to look like in his next start. So when we had a plan for the next start, not that we couldn't adjust, but like we would think, yeah, that's probably, he looks like he's a little tired, spins not as much. So, maybe we're thinking about 6 here. Maybe we're not thinking about 7. So, Keuchel was his name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember Keuchel.
Was it Dallas Keuchel?
I think so.
So, like it just wasn't like, it's like, oh yeah. So like we would now monitor this stuff. And I remember being like, oh, like, I don't think that's happening here. And then they had like an app and they had all this other sort of stuff. And I was like, whoa, like you guys are now part of this was, and I do believe part of this was where they were geographically, Houston, NASA, like they worked with NASA on some of this stuff. Right. So like, there's a lot of these kind of, there's some of these kind of companies around San Diego too, John. So, just saying, like there are different ways that you can take technology from different lines. And anyway, I don't know how we went down this hole, but
you were talking about Dennis Lin's article.
It is really good. So, game number 2 will be a little later tonight. Tomorrow is a day game, but we are going to have a guest. So, as mentioned, we'll do a little bit of baseball and a little bit of cinephile with Adnan Virk coming up on Thursday. Now, we'll see how this goes. Thursday, we have a guest lined up. His name is Marko Mitrovic, which you got to be a really, really dorky soccer person to know who this is. This is I am one of those. This is the head coach for the U.S. Soccer Federation's under-20 World Cup team. Why are we talking to this person? Well, according to at least my prep here, there are 6 potential candidates for the under-20 World Cup from the U.S. men's national team, youth national team from SDFC. Luca Bombino, Pedro Soma, Darren Ferri, Oscar Verhoeven, Aiden Harangi, and David Vasquez. Now, here's the rub. Mikey Varas is the former head coach of the under-20s, of the under-20 team in the U.S. Soccer Pyramid, the youth national team. The under-20 World Cup is September, late September, early October, middle October, depending on how far you go. It's in Chile. There would be 3 regular season matches potentially impacted. SDFC does not have to release any of these players. So this would be a choice that SDFC would make. But I also figured Marko Mitrovic might know more about some of these guys than any of us do. So we're going to talk to him on Thursday. Hopefully this goes well. I don't know how many players he's going to ask for or even what the process is, or if SDFC is just going to say, no, you can't have any of them. Which would be an interesting choice to make, wouldn't it? Given that you can only get one opportunity to play in an under-20 World Cup in your life.
Wait, so the under-20 World Cup is next year?
This year, September and October.
And all of these guys will still be under 20 at that point?
Yes. This is like a month from now.
Okay, because they're all like 19 now with the exception of Ferri.
Right.
Yeah, I went to go look this up because I was like, wait, if you had asked me, I would not have included like almost anyone except for Luca Bombino as far as whether or not these kids are American. Like, I would have assumed Pedro Soma and Oscar Verhoeven and David Vasquez were, for whatever reason, from other countries, mostly because some of them did come from other countries in how SDFC acquired their rights.
I mean, like, the success of the under-20 World Cup might rely on how many SDFC players are allowed to participate. This is a tournament we've never finished higher than the quarterfinals. So,
what do you think Mikey Varas is going to do?
Well, Mikey's been the head coach of this team. It's an interesting position because I'm sure he has an understanding of how important this would be for a player to represent his country in the under-20 World Cup. You don't know that these guys are going to go on to be selected next summer by Mauricio Pochettino, or ever for a World Cup. So you just don't know that these guys will ever get selected. And like this might be the high water mark for them when it comes to international competition. So I think it's a tricky thing. I mean, selfishly, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's such a fascinating dynamic that I think will play out a little bit over the next couple of weeks. But if I were him, I'd be like, listen, I mean, maybe I can give you 1 or 2, but man, like I'm going to have to play. I have 3 pretty important matches during this tournament. Like, I can't have my guys down there in Chile, Like, I don't know.
So you made the point on yesterday's podcast that David Vasquez has, I'm not going to say looked like he's overwhelmed.
Well, just in a half. I also would point out that Vasquez, led the entire CONCACAF championship in scoring last time he got called up, which was last summer.
Did he really?
He did.
Yeah, so I was like maybe someone who you're kind of like, I don't know if this guy's getting off the bench during that period. You throw him out there and you're like, this would be good experience for him. Like Faree's not going to get a chance to play goals, so maybe go, because it felt like when Luca De La Torre went and played with the U.S. men's national team, he came back and there was a lot of talk about like, oh yeah, he learned a lot from those guys. He learned a lot from that experience. It was really good for him. He's also been like out of gas since he got back, which is the thing to consider, which I think is why he only played a half this last weekend. So yeah, tough decision. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't envy anybody in this decision. Like, I don't even know what the head coach does. Does he call? Is he calling? Is he like, hey, Mikey, man, like,
probably.
What do I do here? You know, or does he call the players? Does he call their agents? Like I don't know. Anyway, we'll see where this interview goes on Thursday. But I'm very interested to hear how this process is going to go. And this is not the normal time of the year for an under-20 World Cup. Normally it's in the summer. So you're like, all right, it's a couple of weeks, whatever, we can learn to live without. But when you're talking about literally your final, I think like 3 or 4 of your final regular season matches while you're still chasing a supporter shield and a Western Conference title, I mean, you don't have to let any of these guys go, but they might want to go. I don't know. It's a lot of play there. A lot going on. John, what's going on for the rest of your day?
For the rest of my day, I not a lot. I have some business I need to attend to this afternoon. I'm excited for another Padres game tonight.
Are you going to listen to the Taylor Swift Kelsey Brothers podcast?
Is that today? That is today.
I don't know. Is it today? I think it's tomorrow. Actually,
it might be tomorrow. I'll listen to it when it comes out. I'm genuinely curious. I thought it was interesting that, it's not completely out of character for them, but I thought it was interesting this morning going to ESPN.com, and one of the leading headlines on the homepage is like Taylor Swift to appear on Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's podcast. It's a very interesting place to launch, to announce a new album. Granted, she's involved with Travis Kelce. They've been dating for a while now, but that podcast at least started as a let's talk about football podcast. And I guess because of Taylor Swift has expanded their worldview a little bit, but it's interesting. And I genuinely appreciate the way that those guys talk about things that are not football, and especially things that are not like manly meathead stuff. I feel like they do it with a lot of care and a lot of grace and a lot of thoughtfulness. And so I'm going to be interested to see how all this goes. But also, like, I've never really heard Taylor Swift talk a lot outside of like, hey, here's 30 seconds of conversation between songs during a live show type of thing.
Or here's an acceptance speech.
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've won.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how deep she's going to go on a podcast hosted by her boyfriend, but like, I don't know, could be interesting. I'm definitely going to be listening. Christina in our chat here is letting us know that it is in fact not today. The podcast is coming out tomorrow. So my afternoon is now free to attend to whatever I need to attend to get ready for Padres Giants tonight.
Okay. All right. We will leave it there. Thank you to everybody who is checking us out live and for paying attention. Do like that. Like the people are paying attention. Know what's going on the Discord channel.
People are definitely paying attention. It's becoming a lot though. Like, do you get to a point during the day where like you realize you haven't checked the Discord in a few hours and you feel guilty? You feel bad. You're like, oh no, I've abandoned the community.
I think it's been the opposite. I think I've found myself checking the Discord more, and I'm like, oh, what's happening over on Blue Sky? I haven't even been there, and then I go there and I feel terrible.
I mean, you got me sucked back into Twitter, and now I keep checking Twitter because, quite honestly, it's there's just more activity over there, and sometimes when I'm trying to follow a news story, it's slightly better, especially if it's like a live news story about the crumbling democracy that we live in. Sometimes it's a little bit faster and easier to get information over on the bad website, and I hate that. So I should spend more time on Discord and less time on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's a good evolving. I mean, I like people too are like sharing personal stories. Sonny Fono was talking about life in San Francisco. I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Jody we had some pretty deep conversations going on there. So, do appreciate everybody feeling comfortable enough to share that stuff. Really. I mean,
yeah.
that's It's quite flattering, I think.
And just before we go, I'll like kind of let this out to the public. Like I did an episode a couple weeks ago with Men's Rhea from Twitter, and I called it the comment section, and it was a little bit of a test balloon to see how it goes. And people not only did some people were mad about it, but it got a ton of traffic. It turned into like a lot of new paid memberships to Section 1904. So now I'm looking at this going like, who else can I interview from our group of subscribers that has an interesting story or an interesting take or anything like that? First person I thought of is a buddy of mine, my friend Jonathan, who I know is a subscriber, even though he's not active in the Discord. And he has an incredibly, incredibly interesting story in a number of different ways. So I think I'm going to try and sit down with him, talk with him, and post that over the weekend as, I guess, episode 2 of the comment section, where I talk to subscribers and just get some interesting and different viewpoints in here that are not necessarily tied to sports. There'll be some, sports around the fringes, but for the most part, just getting cool stories out there to give people something to listen to.
And real quick, somebody on the SDFC channel on Discord said something about getting Manu Dua on the podcast. I had him on the midweek show, so we have that audio. We're going to post that
later
just
today,
so people get a chance to listen to Manu Dua. This came after which home match was it? It was one where he was named man of the match. I think it was his first 90-minute shift. So he had that moment where he ended up he got beat, but he ended up recovering and kicking the ball away, and then he pumped the crowd up.
Yeah.
So I think like literally we started talking about that. But it's just an interesting look. It's about 7 minutes of his backstory, just life, his relationship with Ima Boateng, fellow Ghanaian who came to the States via an academy, played collegiately at UCSB, and now is with SDFC. So, it's not current, it's a couple of weeks old, but it's just an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Manu Dua. So that's a wrap for me. Off to take my microphone into a different part of this house for acoustic purposes.
You have it all.
We'll see.
You have it all strapped to the desk and everything. You have to unstrap it from the desk and carry
Unstrapping it, John.
I'm gonna leave that right there, Darren.